Now, talking about storage now, and of course, it's still the process of achieving food security. Now, another challenge with this also is a problem of climate change. Remember, in 2012, Nigeria experienced terrible flooding, you know, and have we really learned how to deal with some of those things?
Well, we continue to learn, and this is a step in the right direction. Because by the time we have a flood and those things, then there will be scarcity of food. But if we have large storage facilities and we can store them, then it can help us during the time of crisis. What we should really learn is the issue of having plans for irrigation, having plans for flood control. Only a few states have been doing this. Maybe about 3 or 4 states have been doing this. But the federal government needs to meet with the various state governments to now discuss fully on how they can collaborate in terms of having flood control programs so that the farmers will not suffer. The last time, of course, about as many as about 1 million hectares of land were really affected in the country. So we need to move forward to minimize this. And there will be a time that there won't be any water for irrigation facilities. So they can store some of this flooded water to not be released during the drought period. So we need the research needs to be done far more than before in this area.
Now, whose responsibility is it to do this research?
Good. It's our responsibility, but we need funds. We need funds. If you look at the amount of money made available for research to universities, you'll be surprised that it's not even up to this 50 billion for the whole country. Whereas some countries will spend nothing less than 250 billion for research. And when we say even less than 50 billion, it's not just for agric alone. But we need to devote some money for agricultural research proper. The Agri Research Council of Nigeria tried about 2-3 years ago, but they didn't even have money to complete the various research activities that they started 2 years ago. And so many people that benefited from that, and I'm one of them, we didn't have enough money to complete the research work. That means the federal government should devote more money for them, for Agri Research Council, to be able to have sufficient research to be carried out. That's not been done for the past 2 years. So if you say that the universities should do this, you do that, where's the money? Challenge us with the money. And of course, we will give you the best.
Now, post-harvest loss, losses is a big issue. Of course, the Vice President mentioned that, in the agricultural sector. What can be done about it? How can we deal with it?
Well, the post-harvest losses are normally in form of the output, immediately after harvest, during the processing, during the packaging, and of course, when we are at table, so that we don't minimize, so that we can minimize the number of wastes on our table. How do we do with it? The first one is encourage this value chain program, whereby by the time we harvest, we quickly process. Or if we don't quickly process and we don't have sufficient technologies being used by these small-scale farmers who produce about 80% of what we really consume, technologies in terms of storing them, and therefore by the time you now process, so the losses will be minimized before it gets to table. And so we'll be looking at processing technologies over the years. And that was part of the study which ARCN, Agri Research Council of Nigeria, funded. We'll be looking at this over the years, and we found out that so many small-scale equipment will need to be distributed to these, either on the basis of communities or villages or to the small-scale farmers. It's when they can quickly process that they can really minimize such losses. Two, the issue of even packaging is even there. We need to have our extension program to really be strong enough to inform them of how to package properly to minimize losses. And particularly so, if you really want to talk about exporting these various materials, the competitiveness it will be seen in terms of how much level of packaging have been done properly. So that it's not that you take your beans abroad and you start to have some weevils and those things therein, or you take your maize, your grains, abroad. So the issue of processing as well as packaging are key. And of course, for those of you who are very rich, you take too much food on the bowl and you waste it. You just eat just small bits and throw it away. That's also part of post-harvest losses. And this needs to be minimized. Of course, such waste can also be made to be used for either fertilizer or to be fed to pets and all those things, which will also release importation of any other materials for these pests. And so the issue of post-harvest losses can be handled properly through thorough research work, thorough research and linkages with the various farmers. And this is a big gap in this country. And it accounts for as much as about 10 to 15% of the various food that we produce in this country. So if you can save that, then food security issue could now be achieved in the near future.
Right. Talking about linkages, not just to the farmers,
yes.
We also have linkages between agricultural sector and, of course, the industrial sector.
Sure.
So I kind of wonder, do we have sufficient linkages between the industrial and the agricultural sector? And if we do, what is the value of such linkage?
Well, that linkage is growing now. In the past, many of these multinational companies, they just import their various materials from abroad or from their home countries. But given the various policies on tariffs, that can really enhance the linkage. And of course, the government too really needs to give some incentives for the various industries and to link up with the various farmers. If the farmers know that there's a market, there's an available market for them in the various industries, they will try to increase their level of production. And there will then be increased productivity through research, through the various industries, encouraging them. Nestle and some other companies have been doing this along with various universities, particularly FUNAB, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, saying that, okay, we want to produce XY commodities. Help us to produce them, help us enlighten some key farmers to produce them. And by that, we can then link the various farmers to the various industries. This needs to be done and to be strengthened properly. There are some industries that are saying that, no, we don't want so-so products. They need to be made to want Nigerian or domestic production here for their various industries. And it's not by force, but through economic incentives. Economic incentives in terms of, okay, if you don't import, we'll give you, say, about 5% rebate. If you use XYZ groups of farmers, we'll give you, there will be a tax relief. Through that, and of course through sensitization, through discussion, through that, then we can achieve greater linkage between agriculture and the various
industrial
industries.
sector. Well, talking about incentives, we've had various incentives for agriculture. How adequate are they?
The incentives are not much, particularly so if we want to talk about credit. We know that you can't get loan at less than 25-27%, even for farmers. Even the Bank of Nigeria,
Bank of Agriculture.
Bank of Agriculture. We found out that it's only when you want to borrow 5 to 20,000 that you will pay a one-digit lending rate. But if you want more than that, then you'll be charged as much as about 15, 20, 25, 27%, depending on the volume of money that you want to borrow. So that's not an incentive, because if you start in agriculture, not until after 3, 4, 5 years, you won't be able to make return, you won't be able to make profit to about 10% until after 7, 10 years.
Now, what about the CBNs? Is it NASA?
Yes, I'm aware of the various CBN programs. Now, the first one is that, okay, they will, the CBN says they will give assistance to various banks that devote more money for agric loan, or that they will reduce the interest rate by linking up with the various commercial banks. But they've not started to implement this. The thing was proposed about 2 years ago, but we have records that they've not started to implement it. And so the various farmers have not really, they've only been told that, oh, this thing is there, but they've not really been able to tap it. And so the government should also set up a monitoring organization, a monitoring a group to monitor all these various incentives and see that they really come to place to the various farmers and that they get to real farmers and not to the unintended beneficiaries.
All right. Well, just before I take you on the last question, talking about, we have the issue of urban migration.
Sure.
Really, which of course is a major issue.
It's key.
Yeah. So how do we begin to deal with that?
The issue of urban migration is because of some other policies and programs of the government. When you continue to have big roads, big facilities in the urban areas, and you leave rural development unattended to, of course people will migrate. Particularly so, by the time they have school start or they have ND, they want to migrate to the urban areas. But if there is sufficient programs on rural development, the facilities that they can get in the urban area, they can get in rural areas, then it will minimize this rural urban migration. And of course, when you have a rural urban migration, there will be increases in the wage bills of the local farmers in the rural areas because we don't have shortage of labor. And of course, there will be pressure in terms of demand for food in the urban areas when less people now produce. And therefore, they produce less food for we in the urban areas. So the prices will continue to increase. So it's a circle that affects everybody. Yeah. You know, so as they're developing the urban area, I'm not saying they should not develop urban areas, also develop the rural areas if we really want Nigeria to move forward.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor. We really don't have much time to continue with that conversation, but it's been quite interesting.
Thank you very much.
Right. Well, I've been speaking with Professor Bola Okuneye. He's an agricultural economist from the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. He has talked so much about research for government to actually provide funding for proper research. He also advocated building small silos, you know, in the states, the regions, to enable the small farmers have their own storage facilities, and of course, the need for various governments, federal, state, and local government, to build this value chain and create linkages between both the farmers and, of course, the agricultural sector and the industrial sector. Well, it's on that note that we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program, of course, for the week. Thank you so much for being part of the program, and don't forget to join us again, same time next week. And until then, enjoy your weekend.